that any way for me to carry on? Do you think that I want my loved one home? I love you more than you ever know.
A 1, 2, Listen, in my mama's BMW, hating niggas loving you. Double Dutch and bubble kush, ducking goose and orange juice. Chuck a deuce, but I'm an ace. Keep it in your proper place, making moves in proper space. Time to wine, romance the taste. I pack the case by stating.
Look at the lens, you hold your hands below the lens.
I got small hands, they always be below.
Perfect right there.
Alright, okay, I got it. Alright, okay. Scene 1 with fresh produce, take 1.
You go first.
Alright, who started in Cleveland to get me rapping? I would say it was my brother and my one of my best friends whose art is on the wall. Basically, we started a group called Elemental. I had been jotting some stuff down. My brother found my notebook, so he said, "Do you want to be in this group?" My friend, we literally walked over his house that same afternoon and started a group. But little did I know, James, his brother, was a part of Muamin, which is a MC and a producer duo. So pretty much because that was his brother, they saw what we was trying to do. We came together and wrote all the time over James' house and came up with songs on our own, and they saw how much time we put into it, so they kind of helped us out, getting shows at the grind shop, helping with songwriting, putting all our package together, and giving us the opportunity to showcase ourselves. So I would say a lot more. I mean, Rod Washington, he gave us our first couple shows. And it's a lot of people throughout the years that kind of pushed me and my group Elemental to get to where we were at, and where we at now. So.
I'll say though, since I don't really spit like that, she was the one who really made me hop on some of my beats, or like I would say, well, here's something, maybe an idea for a hook, and she was just like, this is actually dope. You should keep working with it. And I mean, that's cool. Like, I always did poetry and everything, but most of my background is just more like the creative and like prose side of it. But when you get into the music and everything, it's like so free formed. It's just like it all comes together. But I would say this one right here, because before I started working with Playne Jane, before, you know, Fresh Produce, like any so-called verses that I had were just scattered stanzas and poems and little, you know, just little, like, maybe at an open mic I might say some shit, maybe not, but yeah, but she really brought it out of me, so that was it. I was just beats and just DJing before that.
There's always obstacles and challenges when you're trying to build something, no matter what it is. I would say, because we were already established in what we already do, me with Elemental, her with her DJing, it wasn't, I guess, as difficult as it would have been, or it was for me when I was younger. People already knew and respected what we did, so it just made sense. Obstacles that we had were pretty much just working together, coming up with a workflow, and setting up the business side of the music, because the music was actually easy. Just setting up that side was, I guess, the initial obstacle and challenge, if you were to ask me that question.
I'd say if you compare us to other people who were trying to do music in the way that we were doing, we didn't have as many obstacles. That's you?
Yeah.
You want to mute that?
I did.
Okay. No, but I would say as far as obstacles, if you think of fresh produce in a vacuum, I'd say we've had less obstacles than other artists. But when you think of fresh produce as a chapter in our respective careers, you can see where all of that work was already done. So it was just like before Fresh Produce, I was DJing for 5-6 years around the city anyway, building a name for myself. And then I started releasing some instrumental projects. Sam was in Elemental for what, like 15 years?
Since I was 13, so I'm 28 now.
So I mean, that's just, you know, once people found out that we were doing a project together, it was like our reputation and credibility from the name that we built for ourselves already, people were already on board, so we didn't have to prove ourselves. So if you're asking, like, if Fresh Produce was the beginning of the story, then yeah, we had it easier, but it was still years and years and years and years of work in the making. So a lot of people also confuse that because they're like, oh, y'all came out of nowhere, or that because we're well connected with other artists in the scene, especially the underground hip hop and punk scene, it's just like they think a lot is given to us. It's like, no, we've been putting in work in the scene for years and years and years and years. And now we just kind of, you know, shifted gears a little bit. And, you know, it just seems like everything's coming together all at once out of nowhere. And that's not the case either. So it's like, you know, we get venues a lot easier than other people, but it's like Sam's been doing shows around the city for 15 years and I'm a DJ. So between the both of us, we know all the venue owners. We get write-ups in the paper, but you know what? We've been working and rubbing elbows with writers and helping book and promote shows for local.
Like before they even got to where they are, you know, we've known, you know, a lot of people before that. So.
You can take that first, cause I got a whole.
All right. Well, I'm gonna. Yeah, we do have our own identity. I mean, I think it's more of an attitude. Sometimes, I mean, you can hear different styles of hip hop throughout Cleveland, but the scene that I was a part of is more of a family atmosphere, and so I think that's what sets it apart, because you can hear each other's influences and you can hear each other's where people get things from, or like the things that they're talking about in the mood. You know, I call myself spoiled because I grew up in one side of Cleveland hip hop culture, and there's a whole nother side that exists that I didn't know existed, and I didn't know how they operate. So for me, yeah, we do. And I think just now people that are coming from out of town are really saying you guys are different. When we go out of town, they see that we're different. When I used to perform a lot in Columbus and Chicago, they could tell the difference. They could tell, you know, with Elemental, it was more of a rock edge and like in your face. And Cleveland kind of helped us build that attitude just because of the city and just everybody's, I guess, Brownstown attitude. You know what I mean? But we kind of used that and took that to our advantage. So that's me personally.
I'll say this. For the city of Cleveland, and this is whether you do music, business, sports, whatever, there's two types of Clevelands right now. There's what she called like Brownstown, and God bless the Browns, but then there's also what we call New Cleveland. So Cleveland has also, I felt, and I'm 29, I've come up in a time where people are embracing, they would embrace the loser mentality, the underdog mentality, or maybe we can get 500 this year, maybe we could just be mediocre, and then maybe we can build from there. And then you have like a lot of millennials like myself and younger, it's like anything is possible, you know what I'm saying? Like, we live in the cloud, all we gotta do is leverage our resources and we can make it happen. So there's a lot of new development where people are looking at Cleveland in a different light. You know what I'm saying? It's not like, you know, we don't have that loser mentality. We're not making, you know, concessions for why we aren't succeeding. We're not accepting anything less than quality. So, I mean, that's just one, and that also has to do with hip hop. I hear a lot of people like, oh, we come from nothing. We come from this. I'm not gonna disrespect my parents and my grandparents. I come from some amazing individuals, soulful individuals, knowledgeable. I come from, you know, from a strong line of people, and it's just like, it's my turn to represent that. So, and Cleveland is where I'm from. So I don't think that I should, subdue that just because all I see is a lack of success around me. And also, Cleveland still is struggling with this identity as a city. This is a post-industrial area. A lot of people are still growing with the mentality of, I'll get a job at LTV Steel or at the factory, retire after 2 years. Those jobs were after 20 years. Those jobs have been gone 20 years ago. And it's like, we're not quite Chicago, we're not quite San Francisco, we're in between. Are we still industrial, or are we gonna move into a service industry? Are we with the future, or are we with the America's past? So that's across the board, but with like the new generation, we're defining who we are ourselves. And the cool thing about that, nobody's gonna define themselves as the underdog. We're here to win. You know what I'm saying? There's some people, ever since the Cavs won the championship this year, they're like, what do you mean 52-year curse? What do you mean no championship? What are you talking about? The shot, the whatever, the history that Cleveland had. So when I hear a lot of rappers, they're like, oh, I come from Cleveland, I come from the gutter, I come from nothing, I come from this. And it's like, whoa, are we coming from the same place? And that's what I'm saying, like the new Cleveland, I feel like I don't want to seriously make it age specific, but the view of Cleveland through younger eyes is a more prosperous Cleveland with more possibilities and things that can happen. Where you got the old Cleveland, they're just still glorifying the grime. And it's like, but we're more than that. You know what I'm saying? And we're going to prove that. So I think that's why also that dictates your success. You're already kind of cursing yourself by saying what you can't do and that you don't come from anything. And then so it's like, how is that going to reflect on your success? What do you have coming if that's what you're putting out there about yourself? And that's how I feel. Be consistent. You gotta be there every day, and you gotta bring it every day, because I'm not dealing with that bullshit, because I dealt with being ugly in my teens, right. I dealt with being broke in college, I dealt with dudes being on some bullshit. And then it's like, now I'm Cleveland, I'm starting to turn my shit around, stuff is starting to look good. And it's like, you can't come with that bullshit. So it's like, yeah, you got a hot song, you rock the party, but you're like, but people ain't checking for me next week, because you need to do it next week. Right. You need to prove yourself in Cleveland for at least 3-4 years. When people hear you after 3 years, they'll hate on you at first, like, oh, she thinks she cute. After 3 years, they're like, oh yeah, I knew her when she was just starting out. Yeah. And the whole thing flips. But you have to consistently be there and contribute into the artistic scene in Cleveland. They say it's a hater city, but Cleveland makes you earn it. So anybody who's constantly getting their name mentioned or requested or a household name, they've been putting in so much work. And you can pick I don't even have to name names, because if you're from Cleveland, you know who I'm talking about. Anybody who seems like an overnight success, who might have support from outside media, mainstream venues, they're here and gone. You know what I'm saying? Because, Cleveland has a slow absorption rate. But when you're in there, you're in there. And I feel like Cleveland makes you prove it. You have to be good every time. You have to show love to Cleveland when Cleveland doesn't show it back. And if you we're not Atlanta, we're not Chicago, we're not San Francisco. Everybody's like, oh, everybody supports each other. Everybody shows up to everybody's shit. And it's just like, well, you know what? Cleveland's not like that. And the sooner people start realizing that Cleveland is its own thing and stop comparing it to all these other cities, you will know exactly what you need to do. Like I said, Cleveland still has a blue collar, so what makes you special kind of attitude. You know what I'm saying? Because I got to go to work at the factory for 40, 50 hours a week next week. So this shit needs to be right. Yeah. And if you can't identify with that, and if you can't relate to that, then Cleveland don't have time for you. And so.
Yeah. So step your performance game up.
Yeah, and be patient, because if you're trying to do this for a living anyway, you're trying to do it for life.
Right, you have to be able to do that, because if you look at the year we're in, that is where you make your cash, is by performance. I'm not gonna say nobody buys CDs, but more people are buying $100 concert tickets and then getting your music for free. So why is there not an emphasis on performance? I'm the rawest hip hop, whatever. but you can't move a crowd.
Right.
I don't mean to be funny. I don't mean to be whatever. But like seriously, when you talk about, oh, I got the best lyrics, but you all the way in the back by the DJ booth rapping mumble and you can't hold a mic. You know, so how do we go back to the basics on performance? I don't care if you Lil Yachty or whoever. If he can rock a crowd harder than MC Lyrical Miracle, I'm gonna buy 5. No, seriously, I'm gonna spend because his energy, the party, the delivery. When you talk about lyricism, there's several levels. I'm not talking about how you put Hat, Cat, and Matt together. Put Hat, Cat, and Matt together. Do you make me feel something when you do that? Does your whole package make chills go through my body? That's what I stand in the mirror since I was 13, trying to figure out how to do. And so when we talk about Cleveland being this town, you know, I've been performing. My first show was in 2004, opening up for Sean Paul. Now, yeah, I was nervous, but I'm in front of a crowd and I don't understand my crowd. So we did a poem or something and we're like, oh shit, we did a poem. You ain't supposed to do that. It was the most lyrical it ain't, you know what I'm saying? So you gotta, and it's like, at what point do people understand the business side? That it is important to focus on your show, not just how great your stuff is mastered. How's your show? Is it mastered for your show? Are your levels even right for your show? Because you come to the show, I got a show at the garage, and it's blown out, don't sound right. You mic check, didn't mic check right. So when you say lyricism, what are we really talking about? And do people know what they talking about when they say, I'm the lyricist and I can't get no, because when you went on stage, your beats was all muddy and you was 10 feet away from me.